Dow. He's a Democratic strategist. He advised Hillary Clinton's 2008 presidential bid. Guys, great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good morning.
So, Joseph, in one breath, you've got Trump saying that the transition is on the rocks. The relationship with with Obama is on the rocks. Then he says it's fine, and then he says everything is going smoothly, and he's back on the phone with Obama. For our viewers, here is the fuller soundbite when Donald Trump was asked last night about his relationship with Obama. Watch.
He called me. We had a very, very good talk generally about things. He was in Hawaii, and it was a very, very nice call. And I actually thought we covered a lot of territory, a lot of good territory.
Are you satisfied with the transition thus far?
Well, our staffs are getting along very well, and I'm getting along very well with him, other than a couple of statements that I responded to. And we talked about it and smiled about it. And nobody's ever going to know because we're never going to be going against each other in that way. So, but it was a great conversation.
Please explain. Smooth, not smooth. Donald Trump is blaming Obama for these inflammatory remarks that he at least pointed out in some regard vaguely on Twitter. Which is it, Joseph?
Well, I'm sure they both can sort of partially and largely be true. We know that these two men probably have some sort of bond that we couldn't imagine because we're not faced with being the president of the United States at any point in our life. But that said, the president's boastfulness in the past week or so has probably caused problems. And even when you look at other things.
How has it caused problems?
Well, I mean, he went on a news interview and said that he could have beat President Trump. That's not really being very kind to the new administration and not undermining them going forward. But even when you look at policy stuff, so the Trump administration appoints someone who may be described as someone maybe pro-settlement with Israel. The next day, John Kerry announces and then follows through with the speech, basically undermining and scolding the new administration for doing what, frankly, the people in this country have elected them to do. Trump was clear on Israel throughout the campaign, and now he's just following through on that stuff.
Peter, I want to get your take. I mean, there was a honeymoon period of sorts. You know, they sat together in the Oval Office. It was kind of like a détente or a truce between these two men. Do you think it's over? Do you think it should be over? Maybe from your perspective, you're wishing the honeymoon period's over between these two men.
You know, what's more interesting to me is the contrast in styles. What you're seeing here is Donald Trump, President-elect Trump, doubling down on his pugnacious, in-your-face, break all the rules, you know, raw power projection, versus President Obama, who's known to be thoughtful, deliberative, contemplative. And the contrast in styles is what's so interesting over here to me. You know, I certainly don't agree with Joe's criticism of the president on these issues, but to me, what's more interesting is how America's perceiving the two parties. This is a proxy for how Democrats fight for their issues and how Republicans do. And just one more point I want to make on that. I mean, this is about change, about President-elect Trump saying, I'm going to break the rules. I'm going to be different. I'm not a typical politician. And to millions of Americans, that's very appealing. The concern that Democrats have, and many Republicans as well, is change can be good change or bad change. You wouldn't want a heart surgeon to walk in and say, I'm going to just bring in my own equipment. I'm not going to scrub. I'm just going to do it my own way. There are protocols and conventions in place for a reason to protect both the president and the people from unpredictability. So that uncertainty is scaring a lot of people.
But do you think how Donald Trump, and this is kind of a common theme that we've discussed kind of throughout, depending on what issue pops up, Errol, but there is this conversation among many Democrats, some Republicans, who say Donald Trump will be different when he feels the weight of the office on January 20th when he steps in there. Do you see any signs
that... Oh, the famous pivot.
No, don't use that word. You know that's a rule in my show. Do you see that at all?
No, I don't, actually. I mean, he is determined to do things his own way. It has brought him unimaginable political success that nobody predicted, including members of his own team. So there's no reason, there's no incentive for him to change. I do think, though, that there's a question that we all want to sort of be mindful of, which is that if Donald Trump runs as an anti-establishment politician, he then inherits the White House, the largest and most powerful armed forces in the world, the nuclear codes. You are the establishment at that point, you know, and things start to look a little bit different when people continue with an anti-establishment theme. He's not going to be able to lead a revolution from inside the Oval Office. I think that's going to be something that we should all be mindful of, and we'll start to see both his rhetoric and his actions change, not because some new revelation has descended upon him, but because he becomes the establishment.
Kind of that point, one of the clashes that seems to be really setting up right now is on the issue of the Russian hacks. and the sanctions and what Congress wants to do. I mean, there's bipartisan support to call out Russia for what the intelligence community says it has done. When asked about Russian sanctions, though, I'm really struck by Donald Trump's comments last night when he said, I think we ought to get on with our lives. I mean, what is that the kind of message you want to hear the president sending? Do you think he's taking it seriously?
Well, I think in terms of the part of that where it undermines the results of the election, I think it is time for Democrats and for many people to get on with their lives.
But
however,
many Republican senators who do not want to undermine the results of the election, they're calling Russia out.
But he also changed his tune slightly when he said that the intelligence community should do its best to investigate the circumstances, which is a departure from him saying a few weeks ago that they shouldn't do that. So he is being a bit more responsible, a bit more focused on investigating the causes and problems associated with the race.
Matt, our reporter, was talking about that we're learning some more details about his inaugural speech and kind of where Donald Trump's head is right now in terms of his inaugural speech. He spoke to presidential historian Douglas Brinkley about it, Errol, and a few of the things that Doug talked about after leaving his conversation with the president-elect is that he wants to draft this speech in its entirety by himself. He wants it to be short. And they also discuss past inaugural speeches from JFK and Reagan, maybe his inspirations. What does that tell you about what will be the biggest speech of this man's life?
Well, I am hoping that he doesn't do what you just described. There's a reason. Well, you know, look, there's a reason that you have historians, for the same reason that even as a builder, Donald Trump didn't go and take, hammers and nails himself, right? Mm-hmm. You find people who are experts in their areas. You draw in their expertise and their insight and their wisdom. You let them find the echoes of past speeches from Teddy Roosevelt or from Franklin Roosevelt or from Ronald Reagan and so forth and so on. He can try and sort of go it alone, I suppose. He could try and make it sort of a short campaign-esque speech, which is frankly what I would expect from him. But, we're hoping, I guess, for something grander, for there to be some kind of transition. If Donald Trump has decided, though, that this is not going to be the moment to announce a change from the campaign trail to the leader of the free world, to the head of the government, I don't see any force on earth, not even Joe Borelli, my friend, who can compel him to do what he has decided not to do.
What is the one thing you think Democrats, the code word, what is the one thing Democrats want to hear in his inaugural speech that will bring them comfort when you say they're scared?
I think it's what we want to see rather than we want to hear.
Okay.
I mean, Donald Trump is moving to the phase of governance, as Errol said, from campaigning. And now it's about showing, not telling. And we want to see what happens. We all hope for the best. No Democrat, I think, would want ill for the country or want Donald Trump to fail and to harm people. We want this to work out. There's a lot of nervousness for the reasons I explained before, but I think it's about let's do this and let's hope this works out. And to bring justice and fairness to everyone. This is not about Red America, Blue America. Everybody has to benefit from this presidency.
Red America, Blue America, this is